Nah. Axes. Good for many things. Like cameras. Well, hello there. I got water because I'm going to be talking to you. This is pretty much as close to a story time video as I'm going to get. Hi, I'm Amy. If you've never seen one of my videos before, I have had many interesting jobs in my life. Or at least a few. I'm going to push this pillow further away from me. When I say interesting, crazy job, I kind of mean that I had a job that was very unique. I don't know that many people who have had this particular job, but I have known many people who have enjoyed attending this said job. It's in the title. I don't know why I'm like playing around it. I worked at an escape room. Yes, escape rooms. If you don't know what that is, it's when people let strangers lock them in a room with no way out except their brain, and they're timed. Escape rooms are a very interesting idea. It involves a lot of trust and involves a lot of people freaking
the heck out.
When it comes to the escape room that I worked at, I'm not gonna name names, name anything that can like come back to bite me, but I thought it was a very interesting thing because escape rooms, scary, creepy, kind of. It depends on what escape room that you did, what kind of room that you did, if it's a horror theme, if it's just a mystery theme, whatever it is, your experience will depend on that and will depend on what kind of group that you're with and what kind of host, what kind of brain power you have, what kind of room you choose, what kind of experience you want, all that kind of stuff. Today I'm really just going to talk about the main factors that kind of happen when you work in an escape room. When I got the job, I auditioned kind of like it was an acting audition, which I've done before. What I did was they gave me a prompt of a hosting thing. What I did was the introduction to the room. So there's the host who introduces you to the room, and there's the people who are in the room depending on what kind of room that you're doing. The one that I did was a host for setting up the scene of a story. I just had to audition and read it, make it my own, project, and all that good stuff like you do in any kind of audition. It was fine. It was probably one of the easiest kind of acting gigs I've had. It was an interesting time, and I kind of should have known how unique this kind of experience was going to be given the nature of the interview and the fact that I think the girl who was there was not there by the time I left or by the time I finished being hired. Yeah, anyway, it was a fairly small escape room place. We had 1, 2, 3, we had 5 rooms, some bigger than others, some had 2 rooms, some, you know, it just depended on the room. They were not all horror themed. We had 2 scary rooms, we had 2 sister rooms, and then we had the other one. I mainly did in-room stuff. So when you're in-room, you're playing a character. So it depends on what kind of character that you're playing. The main ones that I did the temple guard, and I did the FBI agent. Yes, I'm sure one of those is easier for you to imagine me as than another. I'm not gonna say why. What would happen is you have the rooms and there's cameras in those rooms. If I'm not in the room with you, I am watching every single thing that you're doing because I don't want you to break anything. I don't want you to hurt yourself, and I also don't want you to break, you know, any of the rules. And you have people who are like really rough with stuff and want to force their way through to the next task, and you're not supposed to do that. My job was to encourage you very severely to not break things or hurt yourself or hurt your friends, and really to make sure that you finish the room. I don't know if any of you have ever done an escape room, but if you do and you have a host, generally, you may realize or you may not realize that that host is trying to get you through to the next clue or the next room or the next part of your story that you're working through. Because if you have a bad time, then you are going to leave a bad review and you're going to feel bad about yourself, you are not going to come back and do another room. Even though where I worked, we said you got 3 clues, you really got as many clues as it took to get you through to the next section. Not to make you feel dumb or anything if you completed an escape room and you're now having that epiphany that the person that was either in the room with you or on your walkie-talkie or intercom or however it was set up was pretty much hand-holding you through the entire thing. That's not to say that there aren't brilliant people. There are people who like needed no help whatsoever, just, you know, did clue after clue after clue after clue and rocked it. But I will say that's a severe minority, and you get people who, there's always like one person in a group. Okay, let's talk about groups, okay? So groups, the dynamic of a group in an escape room, you can read it within the first minute to 5 minutes, depending on how active they are. Some groups that come in and are too timid to actually touch anything, and at that point you're encouraging people to be like, no, you need to go through these things, take the books off of the shelf, and, you know, don't lift the furniture, but like, you know, move things around, look behind things, find the locks, figure out what you need to do to open the locks. Please, for goodness sake, I'm timing you. Please go. The person in the room with you is actually the one keeping your time. So if you're wondering, yeah, I'm the one making sure that you get out on time. No one else is helping me. It's all on me. But in a group, you'll generally have timid groups or half and half, and then like the boisterous, I'm gonna have to yell at you groups. Generally, there'll be at least one person who just, I'm like, we're not gonna use any clues. And that's the person who ends up like talking to me and trying to weasel information out of me, like he's trying to trick me into telling him things. And at that point, and I'm not saying him on purpose, but generally it's a him, and I won't give him any of the helper clues that, you know, I use to start leading people to the next clue. I will focus on the one person who's like really trying to solve it and, you know, nudge them in the right direction and try to make sure they feel good, because they're the ones who are having the best time. And if someone's not having a good time and they're just not in it to actually play the game, I'm not gonna let you ruin it for the rest of your people. Saying that, you also get those people who are like gung-ho about solving a clue and they want to work together and they want to solve it and they're jumping all around. I would generally recommend your group not be much more than 5 to 6 people. 2 people is very difficult because you don't have enough people to fully search a room at a time. And if you go over 6 people, you suddenly have people breaking off into mini groups and not talking to each other. The amount of people who will find a clue, realize it's a clue, hold it, look around, look at the clue again, look at their friends, see if anyone's looking at them to see if they found something. No, and put it back. They just put it back and don't tell anyone. And at that point, if I saw you do that, the moment someone else finds that clue, I'm gonna be like, yes, your friend found that about 10 minutes ago, but decided not to share it with the group. Vote him off the island. I'm doing that in a weird kind of voice, but when I was in room, I was generally the temple guard, and as such, I had a cloaked robe and held my hands very in front of me. You usually couldn't see my hands unless I was pointing to something or gesturing or what have you, and usually you only saw about this much of my face unless the hood started falling off my head. It's why, like, generally I wore like a ponytail, so I would have my hair back to hold up the hood so it wouldn't keep sliding back, because those robes were not made for someone of my size. They were way too big and slippery. I would generally float around the room and just kind of encourage people to solve things. And if people, you have to read a group. Some groups really need help. Some groups want you to be scary. Some groups want you to tell them they're dumb. And yes, I have spent many a time telling people that they're dumb in not so blatant words, but things like, yes, people are usually farther along by now, or, you know, I do believe there's a number between 1 and 3 that could be useful to you. You did find it, because there was like one clue in that room that people just could not get. when it came to it, there was like numbers and there were Roman numerals or letters or what have you, and you would get 3 numbers and you have 4 Roman numerals, and it was just like the one thing that people just couldn't get is you would have 3 of one clue and 4 of another clue, and they related, and it was pretty obvious how they related, and people just couldn't put that through their head. And so you would have 1 of one clue that didn't have the corresponding clue, and that was how you got your code. And it was like trying to pull teeth, like fully cemented teeth out of a person, because you would have to get them to understand that, like, how many numbers do you have? How many other clues do you have? Ah, so you have 4 of these but 3 of these. I wonder what that means. And they would usually get that this is how you solve your clue. But this over here, they're like, but we don't need this one. There's nothing there. But the lock is 4. Oh my goodness. I think the most I ever had to say for that was like, I was talking to a 3-year-old, and it was a lot. So, groups. I, as temple guard, generally tried to be this like immortal wise woman. You'd walk in, I'd give you a scare. Is it real? Is it not real? I'd scare you. And then you would have, you know, everyone walk around. Kids would think I was fun. I never had bad kids. I know I had some like coworkers who had bad experiences with kids. I never had too bad of an experience with kids, but I think that, you know, it depends on the kids and the parents. But if you're a parent taking a kid to an escape room, do not let them harass the person in the escape room, because we have a lot more leeway to say stuff than most jobs, I think, because of the nature of we are the only one there to control you, and if you break it, our room and our job is broken. Just don't let them harass the worker. We are actually just workers. It's not nice. Same thing goes to adults. Don't harass the person. I've had some interesting people in that room. I would have groups of lawyers. We had like so many work bonding things, like corporate togetherness groups come in. A couple of the major dating apps came through my rooms. We had celebrities. I had a kid who came and did the room with his family. Then the next week I had him again because he came with a birthday party and decided like he was gonna move everything along, and I just had to give him a death glare. And every single time he tried to like force a clue through because he was ruining it for all of his friends. And I'm just like, no, you cannot do this. No, I am not letting you ruin this child's birthday just because you want to seem like you're a brilliant person. That's not how this game is played, kid. No. I did have a fairly prominent YouTube ensemble come through a room one time, none of which I am or have ever been affiliated with, but I'm not going to name them either because, you know, I'm not gonna. They were interesting because I only knew them because I had been shown a thing like a week or two before, because I just hadn't seen that YouTube group much at all. But they came all in, and it was an interesting mix of people who were like meta playing this game and people who were like truly into it. You had a couple who were like really into solving it, but I had these 2 guys who just kept circling back to me and just, you know, I think they were over the whole like team bonding experience and were just like having a laugh about everything. The one guy kept calling me Magic Lady. I was wearing either this lipstick or my purple lipstick, but that in the hood just apparently means I'm a magic sorceress, which on brand, very me, do accept. Just kept calling me Magic Lady all night, and then the other dude just kept walking by and being like,
"What's your favorite Halsey song?"
Excuse me? Are you assuming that because I wear colorful lipstick, I seem a little like gothy and I'm being stoic, that I am a Halsey fan? You're right, but It was a very odd question to me, and I don't know if it was an in-joke with them, but he just kept asking it, and the other one kept being like, dude, leave her alone. But they were cool. I can't remember if I got a picture with that one. There are quite a few pictures floating around of a very annoyed me, or not annoyed me, but depending on the picture, with just groups of people in a robe. I had a couple that like really got on my nerves, and I had a couple who would break things in the room when I was in there. And let me tell you, when your host or a person in your room will not take a picture with you, it's because you pissed them off. And you don't want to piss them off because you're not gonna be allowed back in the room with them or possibly at that establishment, because when you break it, you get put on a list and banned. So when you're in the room, if we're in some of the rooms and there's a person in there with you, generally that's the only person working your room, but everyone else can see you. So there are cameras everywhere because obviously we have to keep an eye on you, and we have an office that has just surveillance, and it's interesting to just watch people go about it and watch people figure out where the cameras are or freak out because they didn't realize they were being watched, despite the fact that we're not going to lock you in a room and not see what is going on. That's dangerous to you, that's dangerous to us, that's dangerous to the business. Not going to do it. You're being watched at all times. I don't want to be mean. I will tease you, I will interact with you if you're giving me that vibe, but if I'm yelling at the top of my lungs for you to stop moving the furniture, then, you know, you're doing something wrong and you're gonna get mad at me for it, but it's my job to make sure you don't break anything, you don't break you and your friends or anything like that. So like, there are downsides to the escape room thing. It also doesn't pay very well, but it was probably one of the most interesting jobs I've had. I did have lawyers were very interesting. They were on this one clue and trying to solve it, and this one guy who had been like pretty chill the entire time just like pops his head up and is like, we're really dumb, aren't we? And I'm standing there just awkward, being like, most people have figured this out by now. Just so you know, the times that you get after you finish your room are not always accurate, because again, we're trying to make sure you finish your room, and to do that, every once in a while we need to fudge our time. So I'm looking up my sleeve because I don't have a watch because it's 2018. Who has watches? This was slightly before Apple Watches were like the biggest thing. And also, I'm poor. I can't afford an Apple Watch. So I would have my handy dandy phone hair tied to my arm, literally have 2 hair ties, tuck it under, and have the timer going so I knew how much time you'd been in there and how much time you had left. And I would have a countdown. If you did well, I'm giving you your time to be like, props, you did this awesome. I had one team solve it and have like over 40 minutes left, which was insane. But generally, we want you to have a good time, and we'll let you know that you
did great.
But if you went 5 minutes over your time, I'm gonna tell you you had like seconds to spare before you got out. And some people caught on to that and were like, we failed, didn't we? No, you had about like 5 seconds. You had 5 seconds left to figure it out. So, props. Skin of your teeth, but you made it. Take the win. Take the win and get out. If you have an actor in your room, tip them, because they make crap pay, and tips we don't have to share. But no one thinks to tip like the actor in the escape room. I would get tips depending on like how much fun someone had, but people would have a great time and not think to give, you know, someone a tip for, you know, giving you a really fun hour of gameplay, because I'm not a waiter. If you have it and you had a great time, I would say tip your escape room host or actor, because it's a really nice thing to do. It lets you know that they had a good time, and it lets them know, hey, I did a good job, and now I can go have gas for the next week. There are definitely things that I can't say because I don't want to reflect badly on anyone who was in a room, anyone who ran it, like any of that. But some crazy stuff happens in escape rooms, and you really just have to make it fun for people. So, you know, tell them not to wrestle each other in the room, because if they're laughing, they're not really realizing you're telling them a giant set of rules, because there's a lot of rules. I think the most fun I've had was just whenever people would freak out, but they would be laughing. So like if I gave you a good scare, or if I was like really bossy to you, but you're laughing the entire time, so long as you're like a good guest, that's my favorite thing. It was really rewarding to have people have a great time and get to the end and be like, that's amazing. It's weird. It's a weird job. The things would break. There would be things that just wouldn't work. We had a room that was completely like electronics based and just decide not to work, and you would have to just improv your way through stuff. I had a bomb that just did not turn on, but I got those people to feel like that bomb was about to blow, because tension is the whole reason that you're there. It's the adrenaline, it's the tension, it's the, oh my gosh, we have to save the world. I really did enjoy the job, even if parts of it were not my favorite. It was not generally the job part. But everyone had like favorite rooms and rooms that they hated. There was one room like I just did not want to work because I did not feel confident enough in having like things not be within my control as the person there. And then there were rooms that I was fine with that others weren't. I really do think my favorite was the FBI, because it was just fun and I got to move around and kick down doors and scream at people, all that fun stuff. Escape rooms, really weird place to work. It's not like any other job out there. I want to know, have you ever been in an escape room? Have you done an escape room? Would you like to hear more interesting stories about working in an escape room? Today I kind of just covered the base details of what it's like to work in an escape room. How many times can I say escape room? Escape room. I also have a lot of stories about working other places. The amount of crazy things that happen in a bookstore would shock you. Things that happen on sets are crazy. I've done a lot of weird employment things in my life, but right now I'm talking to you, and please let me know what you think. Subscribe down below if you are feeling so inclined. I would love to have you hang around. Until next time. Bye!